Listening back to the show, it's quite obvious in the early stages that I am feeling the effects of the dairy milk
So is that what you...
and the Fanta. So what I thought, well, the Fanta was sugar-free last week. So I thought, you know what I'll do? I'll have a bar of caramel, dairy milk caramel, £1, and I'll top it up with a hot chocolate. So
Is that what you do?
here's to you. It's the ever chocolatey Tom Shires.
It is. He's dosed himself up on the cocoa.
Who are you?
Mike Island.
And this is the Shires and Island Agenda. We're all about movies and more here on HWD Hospital Radio and on the Shires and Island Network.
And this week we are of course going to be covering a whole range of topics, but that includes your perennial favourites, this week's big three news stories in the world of film and television. Also, Goggletron, our robot from the future, who tells us what the TV news in particular is.
Hubble bubble, toil and trouble. Mike Island's in for a treat, or is it a trick? In the ever awkward quiz may contain spoilers.
We've also got a couple of new features to bring to you in the shape of Development Hell and Where's My Sequel Prequel.
All that and more. I don't know why it's funny, it just is. Now!
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Push his buttons and turn him on. Send from the future to beat the modern. 900 channels watch paint on the wall. He's the hero who'll save us all. Goggletron, Goggletron, put it on, it's called a Goggletron. Goggletron, Goggletron.
The old ones are the best. And with that said, here's Mike Island.
Thank you, Thomas. Yes, reports in the Sun newspaper this week that everybody's favourite tea time quiz, no, not The Chase, no, not Pointless, Blockbusters, is coming back to our screens, potentially in 2019. Last on Sky, I think I'm right in saying, 6 years ago when it was
the Mayo one?
Yeah, I think it was... No, wait, I tell a lie. It was Lisa Tarbuck on Sky, then it went to Challenge.
Yeah, so Mayo's the most recent, isn't
Yes.
it? And he did a good job, actually. The thing is, though, he's very difficult to watch. And I don't know if that's symptomatic of the fact that he is a radio star, so he has the voice. But when you see him, he's a funny-looking fella.
Well, he's got the time on his hands, I assume, now. So
He's still talking to Mark Kermode, though. They're still friends.
They are indeed. Whether other radio friendships last, we will have to wait and see.
Interesting, though, because we've seen it time and time again with reboots and remakes and reimaginings of some of these shows. Is it a case of all the best ideas have been taken? But you even mentioned in your intro, for example, Pointless and Chase. They're not new quizzes, but they are of a newer generation.
Yes.
So there are still interesting concepts out there. So why do we keep going back to the same well?
Well, I think it's the same as we have discussed and we will discuss and we
Too many disgusts.
and we will discuss in the future that reboots and relaunches and reimaginings all depend on the fact that there is name recognition, there is concept recognition, and that is something that people can rely on. Or to be more accurate, that's something that production companies can rely on in this volatile market in which we live.
So hexagons across the board, one's going top to bottom, the other team's going left to right. Who would you have as your host? Is there anyone who jumps out as being very, very good for this role?
I don't know. We're going to talk perhaps a little bit more about some of the other shows that have come back from the dead, as it were. And if you go for Crystal Maze as an example, you were never going to get someone that was exactly like Richard O'Brien. So
Or Red Tudor Pole.
or Ed Tudor Pole.
Or Stephen Merchant.
You go for somebody who is, again, a distinct personality, but not necessarily the same personality. Do you think Bob Holness's character, you can't replicate it because it was kind of vanilla anyway?
Yeah, in effect, he was kind of like a nice granddad asking you questions and putting you on the... It wasn't the hot spot, was it? They put him on a spot, and it was called the Gold Run, wasn't it, the
Yes.
end round? But they put you on a particular spot that had an area, I can't remember what it was. But even
The
then...
Hot Point?
Excellent washing machines. Even then, it felt lovely when he did it. He did the dance at the end, and it was all good. You remember the hand jive?
I don't remember. Did Bob Holness have a hand job?
At the end of, I think it was series, so where the grand final happened, there was effectively a blockbuster hand jive to and you'd mash the potato and all the rest of it.
Okay, but they saved that until the end of the series.
Yeah, it only happened once a series.
They didn't want to blow that early.
YouTube it. It might even appear on a certain playlist.
Okay. Would they make it aimed at adults or aimed at children? Because didn't the original...
It was students. It was very studenty.
It was sort of sixth form, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and they all brought little mascots on. Do you remember they had knitted cuddly toys and the like that they put in front for, moral support?
So, have you got a candidate?
I think it needs to be someone interesting, slightly eccentric. If Russell Brand was still doing the rounds, I think he'd be an interesting character.
It'd make it distinct from the Bob Holders incarnation, that would
yeah, because otherwise, Lisa Tarbuck, she has a personality, but still a little dry. Mayo especially so.
Okay. Have you got a favourite of the relaunched ones of recent years? He Wants to Be a Millionaire, of course, came back to our screens this year.
I only watched it briefly. I didn't like Millionaire because towards the end of its original run, they changed a lot of the rules. They moved a lot of the kind of safety points as you go up the monies and the like. I just think a lot of these game shows, particularly those, catch a kind of zeitgeist and they're very much of their time. And yeah, as a limited run, fair enough, but you wouldn't want it on 3 nights a week like it used to be or whatever.
Clarkson, impressed or not?
I just think he just does his shtick, doesn't he? And if you like that kind of thing, great. But he's not a quiz show host.
Generation Game obviously came back to it was much fanfare.
It was on telly.
It was much fanfare when it was announced that Mel and Sue were going to be presenting.
Has it seen the light of day?
Yes, they released, I want to say 3 episodes. It might have just been the 2 over Easter, and did not do especially well. Didn't do especially well with the critics. Apparently the ratings were quite good, but it got such a savaging that it's not going to be coming back anytime soon, I wouldn't think.
It's just interesting because some of these things are kind of character vehicles, some of them aren't. So, for example, Blockbusters, I don't think was carried by Bob Holness. But something like the Generation Game requires, if it's really the right contestants, the right host, I think there's a bit more of a magical mix.
Also, I would suggest that Blockbusters is of a kind with Pointless and with Tipping Point and with Golden Balls and the like.
So Richard Osman would be a good host, but it seems a bit obvious a choice, isn't it?
Whereas if you've got the Generation Game, it's a very different sort of high concept almost show, and you do need the host to carry it together, and it also seems a bit of its time as well. So I'm not surprised that one didn't really make a great splash. But Streetmate?
Streetmate, I kind of remember Davina McCall approaching strangers and asking for dates on behalf of contestants, not herself, but it came back, did it?
Came back twice. Once with Holly Willoughby in around 2006, 2007 sort of time, and then is it Scarlett Moffat?
Oh yeah, not good. She, for me, her original appearances on the Ant and Dec Saturday Night Takeaway were fantastic, but then I think she became aware of what her act was, and as soon as she realised why she was funny, I think she then started trying to be funny.
Is that a lesson for us?
I think it is. Less is more. So I think Moffat figured out, I'm getting a laugh doing that, I'll do more of it, but then it now just seems forced. It no longer seems like she's that kind of girl next door. Oh yeah, she's fun. She's almost become a performer, and I think that's let her down.
So remember, if you're paying any attention to this, any TV production companies that may be behind the relaunched Blockbusters, you can get in touch with us on Twitter.
You can indeed, at the SAI Network. You can find us on the Shires Now Network on YouTube. We're both eccentric, I think, in our own ways, and we're available.
Oh, I was going to say we're available, provided it isn't tea time, because that's when we do this.
Yeah, and we're cheap. Shires and Ireland, more music variety, HWD Hospital Radio, if you're listening on hwdhospitalradio.com. Otherwise, it's on the Shires and Ireland Network. This is the Shires and Ireland Agenda. We're about movies and more. And Mike Ireland is in the stream. That is what he is. And we start with a mini news item, just building on last week. And that was, we talked about Iron Fist being dropped. Big news in the sense of it being a Marvel property. Seemingly they could do no wrong. That is no longer the case. But then his partner in, not crime, the opposite, heroism, Luke Cage, has also received the axe, the chop. He's gone.
Yes, we mentioned last week that there is precedent in the comics for those two characters to team up as heroes for hire. So it may well be.
So who are the Defenders? I've got confused now.
Well, the Defenders on.
Not Defenders of the Earth, they're different, aren't they?
They're different, and I would say superior. But no, that's Spider-Man. The Defenders was the name that was used in Netflix's series for the team-up of Jessica Jones, of Iron Fist, of Luke Cage.
Daredevil in there.
And Daredevil as well, yeah. I think in the comics originally the Defenders was a different group, but they just thought it worked well as the name for this particular quartet. However, as I mentioned, Heroes for Hire was a thing that included Iron Fist and Power Man, Luke Cage, and maybe that is something that's going to happen further down the line, but at the moment it does look like Netflix are perhaps pursuing other opportunities in those sorts of shows.
Maybe, and it's part of this symptomatic of the fact that Disney will be launching Disney Life, also Disney Play. Disney Life is what exists now, Disney Play is the one that's coming, and that they're working on bigger and better shows apparently. Rumours that Fantastic Four might get a serialised treatment rather than another big screen adventure. Is this Netflix perhaps letting go of Marvel because they know that eventually all the new properties are probably going to go on the Disney service?
It would make sense for them to do that. They probably wouldn't like having to do it, but it would make business sense to invest in something that they can own lock, stock and barrel. Whether they own barrels or not, I don't know, but Netflix may be diversifying into the cooping industry.
Maybe. Mike Island, are you a real boy?
Well, I used to be a real boy, and...
now you're a real man, aren't you?
Well, I wouldn't go that far, Thomas.
He has a beard.
So we're talking about Pinocchio, because Pinocchio is going to be coming back. Not getting the Disney live action treatment, as far as we're aware, instead getting the Netflix Del Toro treatment.
Now that's exciting, purely from an artistic point of view, because Guillermo del Toro just visually does great stuff. So you won't be able to argue with that. My problem is trying to do a musical version, and Pinocchio, the Disney version, is not my favourite Disney film by a long way, but you can't argue it contains iconic songs. So is taking on a musical version of this tale dangerous? Because the comparisons are going to be there, aren't they?
The comparisons are going to be there, but he is changing it up sufficiently. I think in some respects staying closer to Carlo Collodi's 1883 original work, which was actually quite a bit darker than the Disney adaptation, which is saying something given, is it? What's the island called?
Oh, that's all very strange. That entire sequence is stuff nightmares are made of.
I was about to say Dinosaur Island. No dinosaurs or mammoths were harmed in the making of Pinocchio. But it's also going to be distinct from that, was it 1940? I think it was 1940.
I think 40 is good.
1940 Disney film, because it's going to be set in the 1930s, the Del Toro version, in Italy, when fascism was on the rise, and of course Benito Mussolini consolidating control of the country. So he's going to make it a very different affair, I would think, both visually and musically, and it's playing with themes and ideas that Del Toro has explored obviously before with likes of Pan's Labyrinth.
Does it lend itself to songs? I mean, are they going to be big, happy song and dance numbers?
I'm going from that it's perhaps going for a slightly older audience anyway. So, you know, it's not as though you can't tell stories with song in particularly dark environments, because of course
cabaret. Yeah, cabaret.
So maybe that's something to see. It's apparently been a production that Del Toro has been thinking about for a very long time, going back to I think 2011 that he was first talking about it. But speaking only last November, when there was of course a huge amount of momentum building towards Shape of Water winning Best Picture Oscar, he was saying it didn't look like it was going to happen, but I suppose on the back of that you can get any project greenlit that you want.
Flash, I love you, but we only have 14 hours to save the agenda.
You're listening to the Shires and Island Agenda.
There's been something I've been wanting to relate over the form of this particular agenda for a number of weeks now, and that is, I am waiting on a part from China.
Okay.
I'm waiting on a part from China for my VHS DVD combi.
Because you were going to take it to Malcolm's, weren't you?
Yeah, Malcolm's there.
Other fixers are available. And fixer, I mean fixer of audio-visual equipment.
Very much so, yes. And I did. And I took it about a month and a half ago, and I've rung up a number of times since, and they say they're waiting on a part to come from the Far East.
All right. So is it the video that's broken or the DVD?
It's the video that's broken. I can put the cassettes in and the machine turns itself off. If you put them in about 30 or 50 times, it will then eventually work. But when you press stop, it will chew up the video.
I'll be honest, Mike. Is it time to give up on video?
Look, I think it's...
Because to be honest, John Lewis are one step ahead of you right now.
I think it's the superior format. We may well come back to that after we've discussed the fact that John Lewis are pulling the plug on DVD players, it would appear, saying that they're going to stop selling the players once found under almost every television. Not going to be putting any more players on shelves when stocks run out. Sales down 40%, more people watching on streaming such as Netflix and Amazon. But they are going to continue selling Blu-ray players, which can also be used for standard DVDs. Is that what uprising is, or is that something else?
Upscaling?
Yeah.
Yeah, so upscaling, most good quality Blu-ray players will do it in that it almost takes your DVD to HD quality, not full kind of 1080p or 4K or anything, but it certainly improves picture quality. Not sure about sound quality, but it's interesting because it's a move that computer companies have already made. So DVD, CD drives in laptops and the like are now seen as, and I quote, legacy hardware. Okay. Basically, that they're old stuff, and you find that support for them, like for software patches and things, isn't what it once was because everything's wireless now. And you buy a notebook or you buy a laptop, and more you'll find that there is no disk drive in there because you store everything in the cloud, or you store it on your kind of pen drive or your USB. So they've kind of been phasing it out in that way anyway. I just feel bad for those people that might eventually have to buy a Blu-ray player that don't need one because their DVD player... Well, it's only one manufacturer, isn't it?
Well, I was going to say,
one distributor.
Well, I was going to say, price-wise, DVD players fallen as low as £20 at supermarkets.
Yeah.
Blu-ray players sold by John Lewis, the cheapest one, £79.
Yeah, see, that's not real. That's not the real world. So it'll be interesting to see whether other sellers do follow suit. But I think you can get a Blu-ray player online for somewhere between kind of £40 and £50.
But the Blu-rays themselves, generally more well, not generally, they are more expensive than DVDs. Isn't it? You're looking at, if you're getting a new release.
Yeah, so if you want to get a new release, you're looking easily £14.99, £15 for the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
And
under £10 usually for...
Yeah, £10 or less for the DVD. And then obviously if you get into 3D Blu-ray and 4K, you're looking probably £20, £25. But no, I don't think anyone's handled before yet, because I'm not sure how big a power John Lewis are anyway. If it was Amazon, this would be a completely different thing. But I think DVD players will be around for some time to come. But I just feel sorry for maybe older users who aren't really streamers. Or maybe they are. Maybe there are a lot more Silver Surfers out there than
Silver Streamers.
Silver Streamers.
Okay.
Other party accessories are available.
As I say, I am someone that still is partial to a VHS.
Why? You say it's superior, you think?
I think it's superior. Partly
do you like it when it goes and it jumps about a bit?
Well, to be honest, I'm genuinely not that bothered about picture quality. It just doesn't matter to me that much. That's not why I watch films or television.
You don't watch them to see them, do you?
No, I watch them for the story. If I get that, that's...
If I can see the story, that's a bonus.
Yeah, basically, yeah. No, part of the reason I like them is you get, if you use long player, 6 hours maybe on a tape. If that tape breaks, that's all I've lost. Whereas if I store it on a device, some sort of other device, I could lose 30, 40, 50 hours worth of stuff if that breaks.
You just don't trust technology, do you?
Well, I suppose partly, and I think if something's going to break, I'd rather it was something that was relatively disposable that broke than something that was high-end. Here they are! The agenda!
You're listening to the Shires and Island Agenda. In the middle of a cloud, I call your name. Oh Yoko, oh Yoko, oh Yoko, oh Yoko. My love will turn you on.
We're still talking about DVD players.
I hope so.
Okay. Jean-Marc Vallée, set to direct a film about John Lennon and Yoko Ono. It's understood that Universal Pictures in negotiations to option a script by Anthony McCartan and it's understood that news first emerged in February that there was a collaboration with Yoko Ono for an untitled drama about the Japanese-American.
Yes, yeah.
Was she born Japanese-American or is she naturalised Japanese-American?
Oh, don't ask me this, Mike.
Okay.
We'll edit that out.
And her relationship with the aforementioned Lennon. So it sounds like it's going to be more on her and her relationship with John Lennon, rather than John Lennon and his relationship with her, or just the pair of them. It is going to be very much a Yoko Ono story. Would that put you off?
Not necessarily. I mean, the story of them meeting is really quite a beautiful one. She was hosting a exhibition in London, and in the middle of the room was a ladder. And John Lennon said that he went up the ladder, and I think it was a magnifying glass hanging from the roof with something very, very small writing up on the roof. And he put the magnifying glass to it, so he stood on the ladder, looking at the roof, and it just said yes. And he said that had him, because it was the first time he'd ever been to a kind of an art gallery or show where something positive had been said to him. So, yes, the Beatles have broken up, but all positive.
Okay. Have you ever seen any of the previous Lennon-Yoko films?
So I've seen Imagine.
What about the...
I've seen Give Me Some Truth.
What was the...
Sweet Toronto.
What was
Live in New York City.
What was the Christopher Eccleston drama with...
Did
you watch that?
I didn't see that one. I saw a really great one on a kind of like True Movies type thing.
Okay.
Where John gets really annoyed with Paul during the recording of the White Album, and he's got a pile of papers in his hand. He goes up to Paul and he goes, obla dee, obla da. He just loves the paper at him. And then Paul's having breakfast, and a brick comes through his window, and then just John gets in his car and drives off.
Do you think the director of Dallas Buyers Club and Big Little Lies, Jean-Marc Vallée, could top that?
No.
No, neither do I.
Obla dee, obla da. Trick or treat, give me something good to eat. If you don't, I don't care, I'll pull down your underwear.
Stop it, Yoko.
Obla dee, obla da. Halloween, ripping up the box office. Here and all around the world.
Would it be slashing?
Yeah, if it says slashing, that's like it's getting less, isn't it?
Yeah, okay.
So it's...
Shooting up the box office.
Well, no, because he uses knives. Doing great business anyway worldwide is Halloween 2018. Of course, that's also the name of the Rob Zombie reboot from a few years before, and the name of the first one from 1978. So there are now 3 Halloweens.
H2O?
Yes, that was one of the...
Was that set in a watery sort of setting, or was it just a play on the fact that it was the 20th anniversary?
I think it's the latter, that it was 20 years later. But interesting with this, reviews have been kind of mixed. Jamie Lee Curtis has been very frank about some of the previous instalments. What I like about it is also what infuriates me about this latest Halloween film, is that it ignores its own continuity. So this film is effectively a sequel to the 1978 one and ignores anything else that happened in between. I both respect that and loathe it.
Okay, because you think if you made a series of films,
don't make bad films.
That's
the lesson.
No, if you've made a series of films, regardless of whether they're good or bad, you've established a continuity. You've got to live with it. Even if this is a new, more prestige production than perhaps some of the sequels, respect them.
Yeah, but opposite side of the coin, I like the fact that they're acknowledging really that some of them were really quite rubbish. Jamie Lee Curtis used other language to describe how bad some of them were. So I like the fact that they're going to say, right, we ignore all of that and we'll pick up where we left off from the 1978 one. Laurie Strode, the Jamie Lee Curtis character, has been deeply affected, of course, by the events of the original film, and she then decides to take matters in her own hands when Michael Myers escapes and try and stop him from doing bad things.
Okay, so this isn't the first film that's ignored previous continuity.
In Halloween films?
In Hollywood.
Hollywood.
The one that immediately jumps to mind for me is Superman Returns.
Yes, because it's effectively a Donner sequel.
It's a sequel to Superman and Superman 2. It doesn't pay any sort of attention to Superman 3 and 4.
And do you like that, or do you think that's disrespectful to probably the greatest Superman film ever made in Quest for Peace?
No, I've said it before. I think Superman 3 is the most complete film in the series of its kind. I don't mind it, because this is what I think applies to all of them, is if your core concept, which is probably going to be established in your first film, is strong enough, I don't think there's any problem with just going back and saying we're just going to revisit the core concept and all the other extraneous stuff that gets added on in sequels, because that's the way sequels work. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Is
it dangerous audience-wise? Because once again, going back to Halloween 2018, love the fact that it almost credits the audience with the intelligence that ignore the other films, we're just going from that one. Is that a dangerous move?
No, not necessarily, because we, maybe it's our generation, maybe it's just the sort of people we are fans of things. But the general audience probably aren't fans of things. It's just, oh, I like Halloween films. I'll go and watch a Halloween film. I don't go into it expecting there to be a huge amount of connective tissue to previous Halloween films. So I think in some ways, film studios need to respect the fact that general audiences are intelligent enough to not care about continuity.
Would you like to see it done for any other franchises? Are there any films that you think have had maybe inferior sequels that you think, actually, let's ignore that and let's just build on that film or that film?
Well, in a way, you could argue the whole Bond series, I think, is at its best when it sort of ignores continuity. It has the few references, perhaps, of an occasion. So, for example, whenever there's a reference to Tracy Bond in the series, I am very much in favour of that, because I think it's important that Bond has had a wife who has died. But other than that, I prefer it when they don't really go back too much. We've discussed before what happens post Daniel Craig, and I really hope they ignore continuity after Daniel Craig and just start afresh again. To be honest, is there an argument that you could do it with any other franchise outside of a horror film? I suppose it might be the way DC go for their films, because their attempts at great continuity haven't really worked, so maybe go standalone and just take core concepts and develop off them is the way forward. But you couldn't do it for Star Wars.
You think you'd have to just remake the prequels, I guess, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
and you could call them, if Halloween can call 3 films in their own franchise, don't call it franchise, you'll have you for that. Can call that Halloween, then can we not have another Star Wars Episode 1? Or are those films seemingly untouchable?
I would say that they're probably untouchable. And the ones where you could do it, what about Disney straight-to-DVD films? Because they've quite often done sequels to the big animated classics, and I'm sure if they said, oh, we're going to go back and we're going to do a Beauty and the Beast 2 and it's going to be animated, well, they're not going to pay attention to the Beauty and the Beast straight-to-DVD sequels.
It's round, it's purple, it shows you what to view. It's Mike's Big W.
Shires Island Agenda, Shires Island Network, and HWD Hospital Radio. And is it orange or pink, do we decide?
Orange at the moment.
Orange. How much life is left in her?
I think she's got a way to go yet, thankfully. After that, I may be moving on to light blue.
Oh.
Yes, we are talking about Mike's Big W, which is to say, Freeview Film of the Week.
Freeview Film of the Week.
I'm so glad we decided to keep the live jingle. So it's when we talk about the standout films from the next 7 days, so you can know what to watch without having to consult a magazine.
Now, I don't want to let people be behind the curtain, if you will, of this here programme, but you shared them with me earlier. And there doesn't do that much horror. Is that because there's so much of it you've cherry-picked it, or is there not much on? Surely the horror channel is going mad at this time of year.
It really is, yeah. 24/7. Although actually, no, the horror channel is 24/7. Yes, it is. It's on all day, but I'm assuming they go with the child-friendly horror during the daytime. Anyway, there is an awful lot of horror. I think Film 4 are doing back-to-back horror films from around 11 o'clock. It depends how long their 9 p.m. film is. But yeah, from around 11 o'clock, there's 2 horror films on every night for the next fortnight, I think I'm right in saying. But yeah, I've decided to cherry pick. But we're actually going for our first option to a non-horror film by a horror director. We've just mentioned Halloween, and the original one was, of course, directed by
John Carpenter. I do the quizzes round here.
Okay. But in 1984, one of his other early financially successful films, because not all of his early films were, was Starman. Jeff Bridges, opposite Karen Allen in this one, plays an alien who comes to Earth and assumes the form of a recently widowed woman's late husband, and is exploring the Earth and trying to understand the Earth and humanity, but has also got to evade capture from the US government. Highly acclaimed at the time, and I think it's a sort of modern fairy tale, you might almost want to say.
Yeah, Peter Venkman's a fan. Do you remember he name-checked Starman in Aliens? Every so often you meet a nice one. E.T. Starman.
I remember him saying E.T. I don't remember him saying Starman. So yes, that's on Film 4 on Sunday at 10 to 1 in the afternoon. Moving on to 2:30 in the afternoon on Sunday on BBC One.
Channel 1.
Oh, by the way, you didn't say what Film 4 is.
That's because I don't know. This is the one with the mnemonic. No. Film 4 is channel number. I remember it doesn't have 4 in it.
That does narrow it down.
12.
15.
Ooh!
So Oz the Great and Powerful on BBC One on Sunday afternoon.
It's like Wicked, but good.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Have you now seen Wicked or not? Because
I've not.
You've seen some. You've had a look at a lot of pictures of cats.
I have. Oh my goodness. Angela Lloyd Webber's cat. I've no idea. Well, I do know what's going on there, and I don't like it. It's not for the kittens. What was the question?
Oz the Great.
So I was lost in a world of gyration. Oz the Great and Powerful.
I thought that was our album title.
Write it down. Oz the Great and Powerful. I've heard the soundtrack to Wicked, and that's all right, but I'm not interested in a story that's so heavily about how someone evil is misunderstood.
You prefer a story about
Just bad. Can't she just be bad?
You prefer a story about how a wizard came to be whimsical?
Yeah, and a bit of a con man.
And a bit of a con man, very much so. Is it the best Sam Raimi James Franco team up?
Yes.
Better than
Spider-Man 3? Well, no.
Okay, that's on Sunday on BBC One in the afternoon. On Sunday on Channel 4 in the afternoon.
Channel 4.
At 5 to 5, the Aristocats. Probably not the standout Disney cats or either cats and dogs film. Certainly,
I'm picking up good gyrations. I'm sorry. Everybody wants to be a cat. Discuss.
I think it's a very good jazzy number, and what Phil Harris turns in a typically strong performance in the film as Thomas O'Malley, the alley cat.
No McCavity though.
No McCavity though.
Or even Skimblechecks.
Also on Sunday evening at 5 to 7 on Film 4.
Didn't have a 4. 15.
15. Well,
boom.
The Princess Bride. Richard Guest, who would know a very good script, frequently has said that this is the best script he ever read. Rob Reiner directing, Carrie Elwes, Mandy Patinkin, Chris Sarandon, the aforementioned Guest, and of course Robin Wright, who's tearing it up with the reviews for what's the Netflix political drama, House of Cards. She's taking the lead role from Kevin Spacey, and yes, has apparently been doing very well indeed. But she plays the title character, the Princess Bride, in a very sharp, very romantic fairy tale.
I just don't get it. Mrs. Shires is a huge fan. I watched it because Andre the Giant's in it, and it just really wasn't for me. Even the quotable bits, it's like somebody's there and somebody's father was killed, and he's Hispanic.
Okay.
No, it does not float my boat.
Okay, we're going to...
so that's why it's not Preview Film of the Week.
We're going to finish with 3 horror films of differing sorts, starting off with The Ring, which
you're safe from because your video player is broken.
That is true, although I've used my auxiliary video player.
Do you literally have like kind of a switch to auxiliary power and...
No, I have
some little ensign who's sat at his desk goes beep, boop, 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 and swaps up some wires. And
I do have a backup VHS, although no long player, so I'm really burning through the tapes at the moment. But yes, it's The Ring of 2002, the US remake directed by Gore Verbinski, who we may well come back onto later on in the show. Have you ever seen it? Not the actual
Gore Verbinski,
the tape. But,
I think I've seen the first 2 of the American remakes. Yeah.
Okay, and does it stand up as a? I was going to say it's psychological. The first
one.
It's not a gore fest, is it?
No,
Babinski's in it, but
the concept's quite novel in the sense of what would nowadays be a viral video, but a physical video
that does work.
That is watched. Yeah, but by the internet, it's like the whole world would be gone, wouldn't it?
Well, not everybody would choose to watch it. I don't like horror.
That's true, but you might see it by accident. Some people in these do. They don't intentionally.
I just watch videos, and if it's viral.
But if you walk into the room and it's on, I think you're done for.
Okay.
She climbs out of the well and...
Is that how she gets you?
Well, The Ring itself, I think it's actually a spoiler, so I'll say spoiler alert. The Ring is, in fact, a plan view, a straight on top view of a well.
Okay.
And there's a whole backstory about the girl who's at the bottom of the well, and I don't know how her evil spirit gets caught in a videotape. That bit's escaped me, much like she escaped the well. But she then comes and gets you. But I can't remember why she's doing that. I think she's just a bit ticked off that she was killed in a well.
Okay, 11 p.m. BBC 2.
Channel 2.
On Film 4 at 4:05 p.m. on Monday.
Day number 2. I'm counting Sunday as day number 1.
Film 4 was what I was Go on.
Channel 15.
Channel 15.
You're not going to get me now.
Okay, Vertigo, which is the fear...
Hello.
Vertigo is the... Which one's Vertigo? It's acrophobia is the fear of heights, because everyone thinks it's vertigo. Vertigo is it dizziness?
I think it's dizziness brought on by...
Yeah, because it's dizziness that's brought on by acrophobia, I suppose.
Yeah.
So it's the symptom rather than the actual cause. Alfred Hitchcock, film that was voted by Sight and Sound as the greatest film of all time back in 2012, taking over the title from Citizen Kane. Now, I've seen Vertigo, and it's not my favourite Hitchcock film, but it's Halloween and it's probably the best psychological thriller out there, so certainly acclaimed, as I say. And our freeview film of the week, Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Why?
Because it's Halloween, Thomas. And this one plays very close, in large part anyway, to Bram Stoker's original. It's certainly gothic and it's certainly over the top and operatic as well, which I actually quite like. It is sort of fever dreamish. I've only watched it the once and it was very late at night. And I need to watch Doctor Who afterwards to take the taste away. But it's on Sunday on Drama at 5.
Drama?
Yeah, do you want to have a go? It's on the UK TV channels.
That doesn't help me. Channel number 35.
20.
Ooh.
But yeah, it's one of the ones where it's on I would say Sunday, you would say Monday morning.
Because I'd be right and you'd be wrong.
12:05.
Welcome back. You've played a blackout blinder all night, Mike. Are you ready for the final round?
Yes, master!
For tonight's grand prize, a curse or hex of your choice. Your category is Which Witch. All you have to do is identify which witch the quote comes from that I'll give you. There are bonus points for cackles and boils, and this round may contain spoilers. The round ends at witching hour, which is approximately 3 a.m, and you must preface your answers with the phrase, which witch. Are you ready to begin, my pretty?
Yeah.
Begin! Curses, somebody always helps that girl. Shoes or no shoes, I'm still great enough to conquer her, and woe to those who tried to stop me.
Which witch, the wicked witch of the West?
Formula 86, my greatest triumph, a work of genius.
Which? No idea.
So it's a form that's put in something that youngsters are going to consume. And there's a big meeting where they debut this stuff.
The Grand High Witch.
Which witch?
Wait, I said that one. Which witch, the Grand High Witch?
Are your sisters deaf? And your brother, is he unintelligent? Then how dare you come alone?
Which witch, the White Witch?
Full name?
Jade is Queen of Narnia.
Now, Rule 1, no mineral or vegetable, only animals. Rule 2, no make-believe things like pink dragons and stuff. Now, Rule 3, no disappearing.
Oh. Which witch? Magical Madam Mim.
It's close.
Mysterious Madam Mim.
Which witch?
Which witch? The mysterious Madam Mim.
Nope, try again.
Pass.
Alas for her, reveal her name.
I don't know this one.
So speaking at a reflective surface, she says, alas for her, reveal her name. A reflective...
Which the wicked stepmother?
Wicked stepmother?
What is it? Isn't she a witch that is a wicked stepmother?
In
The
what film?
evil queen.
Which witch?
Which witch, the evil queen?
She said I must be the worst witch in the entire school.
The witch from Mrs. Cackle's Academy.
Which witch?
Which, the worst witch?
Full name?
I don't know her personally. We haven't been introduced.
She's Mildred Hummel. Without me, you're nothing. You're straw, a flea bite, a speck. Dum dum da da dum dum da da dum dum da da dum dum ba da da bam bam ba da bam 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 bam.
Which witch? The witch that went on to play Mrs. Marple, Miss Marple.
Is her name mentioned in the film?
No.
She's Mortiana.
Yes, she is. She's mentioned in the film.
Jeez. You shall not see the star, touch it, smell it, or hear it. You will not perceive her, even if she stands before you. Pray you never meet me again, Ditchwater Sal.
Witch, played by Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yes, which, played by Michelle Pfeiffer.
Which doesn't have a name in the book, but is called the Lilim in the plural.
Lilim?
Yeah.
Is it Lamia or Lamia? L-A-M?
In the film, that is what the character is called, but in the book by Neil Gaiman, published in 1982, it wasn't, it was the 90s.
You guys know I can move things with my mind, right? So she's talking to her fellow superheroic friends. You guys know I can move things with my mind, right?
Which, the Scarlet Witch?
It can take years to develop a craft. Look at my aunts, Hilda and Zelda.
Which, Sabrina the Teenage Witch?
Wow, did you watch it?
I remembered that Hilda and Zelda were the...
Excellent. We must find the book, brew the potion, and suck the lives out of the children of Salem before sunrise. Otherwise, it's curtains. We evaporate. We cease to exist.
Which was played by Bette Midler in the film Hocus Pocus.
Which was played by Bette Midler in the film Hocus Pocus.
I have never seen said film.
Sisters, allow me to introduce you to the famous witch hunter, personally responsible for the death of over 600 witches. If it helps you, the film is subtitled Witch Hunters.
Hansel and or Gretel were in this film, but I have not seen said movie.
Played by Famke Janssen.
Which, Jean Grey. Which, also Xenia.
Mike?
Yes!
Delayed response. Winner!
Where's my sequel? I said, where's my sequel or prequel?
So we were talking earlier about game shows, so that some of them are about a particular personality. And the game show is still important, but sometimes the figurehead of the show is massively important. I think that very much relates to the rumours this week of a rebooted Pirates of the Caribbean. The fact of the matter is that people barely want to see, and I say that because they still make a ton of money, even the latest films, but people don't really want to see, or they aren't very good, a Pirates film with Johnny Depp. Is there an appetite for Pirates of the Caribbean potentially without Johnny Depp?
I don't know whether there is the appetite, but I still think there is an opportunity to make one, simply because...
There's money to be made.
There's money to be made, but also Captain Jack isn't a character, I think I'm right in saying, from the...
I'm not sure the actual ride have characters. It's more like just dioramas that you swim... Well, you don't swim through, but you're on your boat and you go through and there's a story, but I don't remember there being actual characters.
Well, that was what I was about to say. Therefore, isn't Pirates of the Caribbean really just a concept of a pirates in a film?
It is, but are they not victims of their own success in the sense of, will people be able to remove Captain Jack Sparrow from... They've become synonymous, really, haven't they?
Well, in that case, do you change it up even more and basically go... We're going older, for example. Or alternatively, we're going much younger. We're going for a much younger audience than we were previously, or we're going for a 15 approaching sort of audience. So if you don't have Captain Jack in it, you're selling it on a different sort of aspect of piracy.
The good kind.
Well, no,
the family-friendly kind.
Well, no, I'm saying, you go the opposite. As I say, or you go the opposite way, and you say, no, we're actually making this a bit seamier.
Yeah, you can make it more of a Narnia type adventure, perhaps, than the gritty, because they've always become slightly horrific in both senses of the word.
Also, is the supernatural element something that is from the original ride?
Yes, because
Okay.
you go through one room, if you will, and they're just pirates drinking in the kind of bars and that, and then you go through another, and there they are as a skeleton. So it always has been a kind of haunted pirate story.
Because I don't know, where does that come from? Where did that idea originally? Because it seems a sort of odd idea to bring together of the idea of pirates, and we're mixing it up with sort of the undead.
Skull and Crossbones has got a skull and crossbones on it.
Yes, but that's not.
That's skeletal.
But that's just symbolism. That's not inherently magical.
How do you know? Were you there?
Well, in the era of pirates? I was there. No, I wasn't.
She was. So who's the team behind it?
They're bringing together the writing team of Rhett Rees and Paul Wernick. This is the pair behind the first two Deadpool films, also Zombieland, appropriately enough.
All right, so tonally, I mean, that's not to say they can't write other stuff, but that seems to point at something quite different.
Yeah. Would you bring Johnny Depp back if you were going in and saying we want to start afresh? Do you bring Johnny Depp back and have a sort of handover almost, so he's in for the first one, and then you have a new pirate take the lead?
Isn't that kind of what they've done with the last film anyway, with the younger crew?
I suppose so, but the argument is that was Johnny Depp the lead really in the original Pirates film? Because aren't the two main characters really, in terms of the narrative, Orlando Bloom and
Elizabeth Swann, Keira Knightley.
They're the two who actually have the narrative, and it's Johnny Depp that sort of turns up as a supporting act that steals the show, even in the film itself rather than just in terms of recognition. So couldn't you do that again?
I personally think starting afresh, but the difficult thing is you can't do that because you can't use the Pirates of the Caribbean. That's the brand, that's the franchise, that's what's going to half sell this thing anyway. So to then do, well, we're going to do something by Disney with Jerry Bruckheimer that's about pirates, but not that. I just think they've made a rod for their own backs, in that you either make another Johnny Depp adventure that's going to make money but not be well received and probably not be very good, because let's face it, those films have not been good since the first one.
I thought you liked some of the sort of 2 and 3, or is it a bit unfair?
I think some of the comedy moments, some of the Johnny Depp stuff's all right, but they're overblown, they're overcomplicated.
Also, I assume they're very expensive to make as well.
Yeah. But justified by box office receipts, and that's the thing. If people keep pumping money into it, they'll keep pumping rubbish out.
Yes, but in terms of the first 5 films, $4.5 billion over 14 years.
Well, if it's popular, it must be right.
But Dead Men Tell No Tales.
Salazar's Revenge?
Yeah, 172 million. That's only 172 million dollars compared to an average of 320 million stateside for the previous instalments. So
that, and just story-wise, there's nowhere else to go. It's just, it's another adventure, or it's another adventure. And the fact that we'd lost the main crew for so long, with 4 and 5, I think it lost some of its sparkle.
Also, it hasn't led to a whole slew of other Pirates films by other studios, other films about pirates. So it's clearly whatever it was that was putting those films together in the first place was what worked. It wasn't just the concept of pirates. So maybe that does mean you've got to go back to Johnny Depp's well.
Indeed. I'm not sure if there's a scary girl in the bottom of it. And then also looking at a sequel that definitely is happening, but will be late.
Yes, well, officially it won't be late. Originally going to be released on the 1st of November next year, 2019, was Wonder Woman 1984, full 36 years after it said it was going to be due. It's now going to be released on the 5th of June 2020, which Gal Gadot, the star of the Amazonian adventure films, announced on Instagram on Monday, saying, super excited to announce that, thanks to the changing landscape. But I'm assuming they're studio words. We are able to put Wonder Woman back to its rightful home June 5th, 2020. Be there or be square. Now, I do think she's upped her adorable quotient by using be there or be square at the end of the Instagram message.
Is that what you want from a Amazonian warrior princess?
Be there or be square.
Well, just how adorable she is.
I like that phrase, so I'm glad it's coming back into modern coinage. But the reason they're saying rightful home is because the original film, film of last year, was released on the 5th of June. But does it make any odds? Does it make you think, oh well, this is clearly a film that's got problems, or is it actually that summer blockbuster is probably going to be a bigger deal than a winter blockbuster? And you look at the films that it would have been up against on the 1st of November next year: Joker, Zombieland 2, Sonic the Hedgehog, third Kingsman film. Also around that time was supposed to be Charlie's Angels and Terminator. Actually, Charlie's Angels and Terminator have since moved to take the 1st of November date that Wonder Woman has vacated.
Yeah, and is it DC just spreading their eggs, so to speak, rather than putting them all in the November basket with Joker? You'd almost run into a potential Star Wars situation of having films out in too quick succession. So at the very least, you could put them a few months apart rather than seemingly a few weeks apart. Because how much money is there to go around? They've got to be considerate of the facts that cinema goers can only spend so much money and only have so much time to go see things. So I guess putting some distance between them can only be good for business.
Yeah, it's going to now be competing with Godzilla vs. Kong, Maleficent 2, Red Notice, which is a new Dwayne Johnson film, a new Pixar film, and also the Top Gun sequel. Would you back Wonder Woman against any of them? I mean, against Godzilla versus Kong, because only one of them is going to come out alive.
That's true. I'd be interested to see how Top Gun Maverick fares. Yeah, I think it is subtitled Maverick. Purely because it's a long-awaited sequel, it's going to have a lot of buzz behind it, but surely so is Wonder Woman, given how well the first one was received.
So that's the 5th of November 2020. You've got to wait for the next instalment.
Remember.
The 5th of June.
Shires Ireland Agenda, more music variety, HWD, Hospital Radio, and on the Shires and Ireland Network. We're all about movies and more. We make no apologies for the scary jingle because it is that time of year. And we've been wanting to do this for a little bit of time, and thankfully Zack Snyder has given us all the ammunition we could ever need. That is Development Hell, because it's a film that was there in the very depths of it. Finally something saw the light of day. It wasn't the best, to be honest, it's not even the worst film ever. I just think we're very spoilt in the kind of Nolan MCU era, that had Justice League come out any other time, are not in this kind of period, this kind of golden age, if you will, we'd have been all over it. But we're spoilt, Mike Island. And Zack Snyder, he's proud of what he did on the film, but then it's not his vision that we finally saw on screen. And is he distancing himself from it? Is he trying to prove that he'd have done a better job? It's just all these recent social media posts, quite strange mixed messages to me.
There's the assumption that he wasn't happy with the film that was released when Joss Whedon stepped aboard to take control of Justice League after Zack Snyder had to step away for a family tragedy. There's been talk about the fact that the studio weren't happy with the film anyway. But
yes, there are rumours saying that he was fired,
yeah,
and that we can't make any light whatsoever of that personal tragedy. But it might have been I don't say convenient way of having him exit, but maybe a more graceful way of having him step away from the chair.
But I do wonder whether is this the age we live in, and that if directors and artists are engaged with social media and engaged with putting things out there, they're going to sort of say, particularly if they've perhaps left the project in a way that they're not especially happy about, they're going to say, this is what I wanted to do. And if you're someone that has got a huge amount of fans, because there are a huge number of people that love Zack Snyder and his oeuvre,
back to eggs.
Yeah, very much so.
DC eggs as well.
Halloween eggs. Are they going to enjoy and appreciate what he's releasing, or is it just going to be whipping people up into a frenzy? And we've seen that there's negative consequences of releasing this sort of stuff as well, and campaigns and discrimination, none of which I'm assuming Zack Snyder is in favour of, but you're not exactly damping it down. No,
we've been told almost categorically that the Zack Snyder edit won't happen, so I guess it's his way of having his say. The image that was released today was seemingly of the Justice League looking into a boom tube.
Just to clarify, that's tube, T-U-B.
Yeah. And the idea that perhaps the end of the film would have been them staring down Darkseid on Apocalypse, and maybe the film would have ended there to then set up an almost immediate sequel, which is quite exciting because the latter act of Justice League as it exists, with the whole kind of Russian thing and the family that's house is just in the middle of nowhere and seemingly in the midst of this apocalyptic event, does come off as odd and kind of tagged on as in this wasn't the original ending, because I dare say it wasn't the original ending.
Okay. I, having not yet seen the film, I'm going to say I don't really mind either way, whether it was the original ending or not. I just judge a film on what is actually on the screen.
If you can see it.
If provided I can see it, yeah. Provided the grainy quality is sufficient. But given the reception it's received, I'm probably going to watch it with interest more than anticipation. That's probably the word to put it.
So from the horrific, potentially, Justine, depending on what side of the fence you sit on. No, you'd be in the garden, wouldn't you? Not the side of the fence. My goodness. Just to this time, obviously it's Halloween. We spoke about Halloween doing great guns at the box, great knives at the box office earlier on. Trick-or-treating, a lost art form. Do you get many callers at your home?
I don't think we've had any for the past couple of years. It just doesn't seem...
Stranger danger?
I'm very scared of them when they come round, yes. No, I just think it's a case that kids can get sweets elsewhere.
Well, they can just buy them.
They can just buy them, yeah.
They've got the disposable income. Why bother getting them for free? Don't waste your time.
I've never been in favour of trick-or-treating, to be honest.
Is it begging, Mike Allen?
Well, I don't like the idea of going
Look at my costume, praise me.
Going around to people's houses and threatening them, which is what you're doing.
Trick or treat, there's a positive option there.
Yes, but it's blackmail. Either you give me a treat, or I will trick you.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a nasty trick.
It's a nice trick. I'm going to pull a rabbit out of a hat.
Could be. I once did card tricks in my youth. Yeah, I took a pack of cards, and if they said trick because they thought they were being clever, I thought I'll show you, and I did some magic. Real magic.
And did they then reward you for the magic?
They did.
They did. So
I showed them.
Why didn't you just go? I'm going to show you a trick, and then you can give me a treat.
That's presumptuous.
Instead of threatening them.
I gave them an option. I wowed them with the trick, and they gave me the treat.
Was it
the right way to do it?
Did you have a Paul Daniels magic set? I did.
Did you?
Never mastered it.
Did you like it?
I liked it, but I could never do any of the things in it.
Did you like it?
I did.
Do the line in the Witcher's voice.
Not a lot. You want more? You want more of the line?
You like this? Not a lot, but you kind of repeated it twice, didn't you?
I'm not doing it twice. You're going to tell me why I should like horror films.
Am I?
I thought we were, yeah.
We haven't got too much time left, I don't think, for that. So I'm not going to do it.
Get more of that next week.
I just want to say one thing to my wife who's home. Your agenda, we did it!
You're listening to the Shires and Ireland Agenda.
Now, 2 weeks ago we said... we've got a creaky door sound effect. 2 weeks ago we said a rather hurried goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
Last week we were more leisurely. How quick do you want to take it?
Well, you sort of implied that we'd really got to get a wriggle on.
Well, I don't think we had enough time to talk about horror films, but we certainly got enough time for an adequate so long.
Okay, so we're going to be back next week.
Absolutely, here on HWD Hospital Radio and on the Shires Network.
We can now definitely say that we're going out at 5 p.m. on a Tuesday on HWD, isn't that right?
Absolutely, so you can listen live, or as live, so to speak, Tuesday nights at 5 on HWDhospitalradio.com or any time you like on the Shires Network.
Always there. Also, you upload a playlist.
I do upload a playlist. It's become an infomercial, this.
I don't mind that.
Every week you will get a playlist based on the talking points. So some of them are just from the film we've talked about, or some of them are a little bit more wacky, but you can enjoy, listen to the soundtrack, or do a bit of both. Have it in one tab, have this open, in the other tab have the playlist, and you can interject.
Can I just quickly ask about your dinosaur?
Yes?
Open the door, get off the floor, everybody wants that dinosaur.
Take care. It's all right now.
Bye, everybody.